So far in this 1 year later series, we have only covered players who are either A, Vancouver Canucks prospects, B, Montreal Canadiens prospects, C, Detroit Red Wings prospects, and D, Boston College NCAA players. And we are adding to the Boston College NCAA players here today. And I know, I get it, it's a coincidence. I didn't really plan to only cover Red Wings players, Canucks players, Habs players, and BC players, but that's just eventually how it goes. Today we're doing another 1 year later video on a player who, if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan, and you're a fan of this channel, you know who exactly this guy is if you've been watching the videos for the past, let's just say, year and a half. Because when it comes to 2019 NHL draft coverage, there was a big part of the Canucks fan base, myself included, Moroki on defense, who made a crazy good video about this player included. There was a lot of people who kinda wanted this player for the Canucks. Today we're doing a 1 year later video on Matt Boldy, talking about where he was a year ago, where he is now, and how he had a crazy bad start to his NCAA tenure with the BC Eagles. Matt Boldy last year was a member of the generational USNTDP team, and I say that because that's the term that Craig Button coined for the team. No one player on that team was generational, but the team itself, the combination of so many elite potential players put together onto one squad, was indeed a generational team, a once-in-a-generation team that we won't really see quite frequently in terms of junior hockey coverage, but Boldy was a part of this team, and he was a player who was cementing himself as not really one of the best players. The common consensus was that the Zegrases, the Turcottes, the Hugheses, and potentially even the Caufields were all better players than Boldy, but that Boldy was more of an all-round Swiss Army knife kind of player. In the Why I Want video I made about Boldy a year ago, I said that he was the perfect player. And that was an opinion that a lot of people kind of shared. The fact that he could do everything, grind along the boards, play make, shoot, pass, and be very responsible defensively was a very good sign for people looking at Boldy and saying, yeah, if you want a player who can just help your hockey team win games in every scenario, this is your guy. And on a Vancouver Canucks team that boasted depth at center, depth on D, and depth on the goaltending side of things, Canucks fans were saying, hey, we could use a left-wing player like Matthew Boldy, a guy who has been playing alongside of Hughes, Zegras, Turcotte, and Caufield, and who didn't look out of place. A guy who had 81 points in 64 USNTDP games, and who was only looking to be very, very good as his career went on. However, the Canucks passed on him. The Minnesota Wild eventually drafted him 12th overall, and immediately to me I was like, yeah, this can be a crazy good combination. Kaprizov and Boldy together, you have a really bright future in Minnesota if you develop these players correctly. But that's not really what we saw out of Matthew Boldy in his first year in BC. Immediately making the team, he didn't impress. In his first 14 games played, Matthew Boldy had a goal and an assist. That was it. He had 2 points to start off his BC career in 14 games, and immediately NHL fans were looking at this saying, what the heck? What's going on? Matthew Boldy was supposed to be so good. Zegras and Turcotte and Caufield are doing amazingly well. Boldy's own teammate Alex Newhook from the BCHL is doing so much better. What's going on with Matthew Boldy? But in fact, Matthew Boldy was just so incredibly unlucky that it pains me to take a look at what happened at the start of his NCAA career. In those first 14 games that Matthew Boldy played, where he had 2 points, he was averaging 2.9 shots a game. The guy was out here getting chances, it's just he wasn't getting chances, if you know what I mean. And the Boston College Eagles were not a bad team. They won the majority of these games that Boldy was pointless in. It's just a matter of opportunity and luck that really came to bit Matthew Boldy in the behind. Eventually, though, Matthew Boldy overcame those obstacles, and wrapping things up, Matthew Boldy finished off the season with 34 games played and 26 points. Which means if you subtract the 2 points in 14 games that he got initially, he had 24 points in 20 games. That's really not bad. In fact, that's pretty good for a freshman. As the year went on, Boldy started to become more comfortable, he started producing more points, and he started showing off to everybody at the BC audience why he was such a good player for the USNTDP and such a highly touted NHL prospect. In February, he got 16 points in 9 games, which is a very, very good rate. In February alone, Matthew Boldy had 4 3-point games, which as a freshman is very, very impressive. Sure, on paper, Alex Newhook, his teammate at Boston College, who was also a freshman, was incredibly on another level. 42 points in 34 games, he was consistent the whole year, but Matthew Boldy had the very unfortunate start that he did, which kind of steered away some people's expectations of what could become of this player. Lo and behold, though, Matthew Boldy finished with the same amount of points as Alex Turcotte had, and he had more points than Bobby Brink. And now when it comes to what Matthew Boldy is going to be able to do next season, people are excited, and rightfully so. Because we saw probably, let's just say, half a season of what Boldy is really capable of, and the only way to go from here is up. Sure, does the possibility exist that Boldy does have a slow start next season? Yes, but I would say it's probably very unlikely. NCAA development isn't really known for being stagnant for top NHL prospects, and for a guy like Matthew Boldy, who was ranked very, very highly, 7th by ISS, 9th, 12th, and 11th, that's something that I don't really see here. To me, Matthew Boldy is a guy who can definitely become better, and a guy who definitely still boasts a top 6, if not an elite ceiling at the NHL level. There's a reason why Vancouver Canucks fans were so hyped for this player, and were so interested in selecting him in the 2019 NHL Draft. Sure, they went with Podkolzin instead, who I think a lot of Canucks fans would agree is a much more loved prospect than Boldy is right now, but still, the excitement for Boldy was there, which is why taking a look at his first year in the NCAA has always been such an interesting topic to me. The fact that he started off super cold, 2 points in 14 games, and ended up being one of the top freshman scorers in the NCAA, it's a very nice bounce-back sign, and I can't wait to see where he goes from here. His NHL ceiling to me is still that of a top 6 guy who can contribute upwards of 60, maybe 65 points in a season. A guy who can play in all scenarios, on the power play, on the penalty kill, who can grind along the boards, set guys up, and do a lot of the dirty work while also being a top point producer on a team. This is a guy who is going to thrive alongside of a Kirill Kaprizov-like player, and if he's able to shoot a little bit better, shoot a little bit more accurately, and start becoming a little bit more luckier, I think only the extended part of a year or so is all that's needed to establish Boldy as the top echelon player that people thought that he was a year ago. This past season with BC, Matthew Boldy had an 8.9 shooting percentage. That's terrible. That first 14 games where Boldy had 2 points, his shooting percentage was 2.4%. You cannot get worse than that. To me, for Matthew Boldy, the only way to go is up. And I think next season we're going to see up. We're going to see more progression. We're going to see another year of NCAA hockey with Matt Boldy and Alex Newhook, potentially even on the same line, and we're going to see them improve on each other and be better hockey players. We already talked about Alex Newhook because he was the best Draft Plus One player as a freshman in the NCAA, and he was absolutely amazing. But to me, Boldy's got a little bit more catching up to do, but it's just a matter of time before that actually happens. So, comment down below what you think about Matthew Boldy. Were you kind of surprised about his little slump at the beginning of the year? Because I certainly was. And what was your response to that? To me personally, I was like, okay, let's wait till the full season goes on and then we can judge. And I think that opinion is kind of validated nowadays. So comment down below what you think about this player. Hope you enjoyed this video. So that Trollson99. And bye.